Good morning and welcome to weekly Pan-African news presented by the All-African People's Revolutionary Party in Albuquerque, New Mexico. Today is Thursday, June 18th, 2020, and today's topics will be discussing the holiday of Juneteenth. Good morning and welcome. We will also be providing by the All-African People's Revolutionary Party in 2020, and the topic will be discussing the holiday of Juneteenth. We will also be providing.
Good morning. My name is Monica. I'm also with the All-African People's Revolutionary Party. We're excited to be here with you. We're here every Thursday at 11 a.m. Mountain Standard Time. Before we begin, we want to do land acknowledgement. And so we want to acknowledge in New Mexico, this is Terroir land. It was stolen from indigenous people. I'm also with the All-African People's Revolutionary Party. We're excited. Sorry, you all. I'm hearing some feedback in the background, so it threw me off. Sorry about that. So again, this land is stolen. It belongs to indigenous people. And we are in solidarity with them to have their land back and for us to fight for our land back in Africa. And
we are having
feedback in the background. Sorry about that.
We are having some technical difficulties.
Is stolen. It belongs to indigenous people. And
we apologize, everybody. We're having some technical difficulties. Bear with us for a moment.
let's see.
Monica?
I can hear you, Melody.
You can hear me too? Okay.
It looks like it's not repeating anymore.
Yes, I hope so. Okay, so welcome again. We are the All-African People's Revolutionary Party, New Mexico chapter. The All-African People's Revolutionary Party is a permanent, independent, revolutionary, socialist, Pan-African political party based in Africa. Africa is the just homeland of African people all over the world. Our party is an integral part of the Pan-African World Socialist Revolutionary Movement. The All-African People's Revolutionary Party understands that all people of African descent, whether they live in North or South America, the Caribbean, or in any other part of the world, are Africans and belong to the African nation. And that is a quote from the All-African People's Revolutionary Party's founder, Kwame Nkrumah, from his book, Class Struggle in Africa.
You sound better now. It just stopped glitching.
Okay. Sorry about the technical difficulties, everybody. So we have already done the land recognition. At this point, I would like to call in an ancestor. Today, I felt called to call in Zora Neale Hurston. Zora Neale Hurston is an African writer from the United States who was very active in the 1920s as a writer during the Harlem Renaissance and beyond. Zora Neale Hurston had infinite pride in African people and celebrated us in her writing. She especially celebrated the unique dialect of English that Africans in the United States have developed, and she was a pioneer in celebrating it. And Zora Neale Hurston lived her life as a fiercely proud and confident woman, undaunted in everything she did. She loved Africans, and because we are innately valuable, we are innately worth loving. And I felt called to call in Zora's spirit today, especially because with everything that's going on in the current moment in the United States, I feel that her spirit is incredibly strong and powerful right now, and that she's showing up through the storytellers who are keeping record of what's going on right now, as well as imagining our future. So with that, we move into our Juneteenth portion of the segment. There's a lot of excitement around Juneteenth. The holiday is tomorrow. we wanted to give you a little bit of history and information about this holiday. So every year on June 19th, Africans in America who have a lineage that dates back to American slavery celebrate a holiday known as Juneteenth.
So yes, Juneteenth is every June 19th. It started in 1865. So after the Civil War had ended, 2.5 years later, our people were informed that the Union had won the war. And so our people were still being enslaved. And so this occurred in Galveston, Texas. And we as a people continue to celebrate Juneteenth.
The Juneteenth holiday, the very first Juneteenth celebration was actually held right there in Galveston, Texas, by the Africans who learned just that day, almost 2.5 years after the Emancipation Proclamation was signed, that they were in fact free and that they had in fact been technically free according to the United States government at that point. The holiday is celebrated every single year in 50 states, all 50 states, celebrations ranging from large ones to small ones, public and private ones. This makes Juneteenth the oldest nationally celebrated commemoration of the end of slavery in the United States.
Yeah, so even though it's celebrated in all 50 states, like Melody talked about, it is not a national holiday because, you know, there is continued anti-Blackness against our people. And so it's not recognized as a national holiday, but as a community, we celebrate it, we honor it. And this is an opportunity to learn more about Juneteenth if you weren't aware about why it's so critical to our people.
The important thing to note about Juneteenth is that no other Americans have developed any type of commemoration of the end of slavery, even though for the most part, we celebrate the end of slavery in this country as or talk about it in this country and in history books as having been given to us. But the truth of the matter is that Africans in this country resisted slavery. We resisted in many different acts, large and small. And in fact, it is our ongoing constant resistance to oppression, which is a direct through line from the ongoing continuous resistance to slavery that actually keeps us free. And it is up to us, just as it was up to Africans who were enslaved, to keep our freedoms and to end oppression and really to free ourselves.
Exactly.
Yeah, we don't talk about it that much in this country. We don't talk about the things that Africans did to free themselves and to free ourselves. So,
yeah, our history books make it seem like that we were freed by a president in this country, when time and time again, that's not the case. And like I recently learned maybe about 5-6 years ago about more about our history. And again, it's because the history books are embedded in white supremacy. So this is a chance where tomorrow, the African People Revolutionary Party is going to give the dopest workshop that I've ever seen, where it breaks down the false narratives of we need them to save us when we save ourselves. There's going to be talked about lots of uprisings. The only uprisings I ever learned about was Amistad. There was more than Amistad, where our people fought on Africa and in this space. And in this country, excuse me. The whole time they've been fighting, just like we've been fighting for our liberation. And also, we know that slavery never ended, right? It's been condensed in the prison industrial complex. So we know that we are not free, and we are still fighting for the liberation of our people here, as well as on the continent and across the diaspora.
It's true what Monica said. We are not actually free. We all know, I think every one of us knows in this country, those of us who are oppressed, we can feel that we are not fully safe. We are not fully safe, and we are not fully free. And what really matters is that we know this so deeply that we continue to fight for our liberation. So many of us, we are doing the work, and we're not asking for the freedom and the oppression to end. We're actually organizing ourselves. We're in community with each other. We are finding ways to support one another. The All African People's Revolutionary Party is one organization that if you are an African anywhere in the world, you can join. It exists all over the world. There are chapters everywhere. And we want to give you more information about that tomorrow night. Again, during the presentation, we freed ourselves, Africans, and the end of slavery. And it's important that if you are African, if you're a person of African descent, anywhere in the country, this is a Zoom call. This will be happening tomorrow night that we will present this show, June 19th, from 6 to 8 p.m. Right here on this channel, the All African People's Revolutionary Party New Mexico Chapters channel. You can enjoy this workshop, an illuminating workshop that talks about the many different ingenious ways that Africans resisted slavery and resisted enslavement in the first place. From the time that the very first Europeans reached the shores of Ghana. If you are African and you've ever heard a statement or ever believed that our ancestors didn't fight for us, or that people in Ghana on the continent let us go or sold us or just left us to go and never thought about us, forgot about us, any other statement like that, you need to join this webinar tomorrow. It will be empowering. It will be enlightening. The first time that I heard it, it just made me feel so much pride in our heritage. I already had some pride in our heritage, a lot of pride in our heritage, but this made me feel like anything we put our minds to, we can accomplish. Anything, truly anything. And so tomorrow night, from 6 to 8 p.m., if you would like an invite to this, because we are keeping it in all African space, we want you to send an email to ask for the Zoom link. And the email address that you should email is AAPRPNewMexico@gmail.com. Yes. It's AAPRPNewMexico@gmail.com, all one word.
You can also
we made this. Sorry, go ahead. Go ahead, Monica.
You can also send a message to our page. So with the link that you're watching now, you can send a message and they'll give you information on how to register. Again, it's a African only event and it's 6 to 8 p.m. Mountain Standard Time. And it is open to anyone that is African. So anyone that is African, that means anyone that is Black.
Absolutely, because we recognize ourselves as African and we recognize ourselves in diaspora as still belonging to Africa. And, you know, one of the things that I saw just this morning, was that in Ghana, the president there, I think it was the president, is actually saying to Africans who are in diaspora, this is your home, you can come home, you can be here. And as we know that 2019 was the year of return for Ghana, it really is, we are recognized in Africa as Africans. Don't let anybody tell you otherwise. So yeah, always remember that.
It's strategic. I was just going to say, I'm sorry to jump in. It's strategic for us to not know about how our ancestors fought for us. It's strategic for us to, it's a form of institutionalized oppression for us to think that our people just gave us away, when our people actually fought for us, right? And we're connected to their resiliency, we're connected. And so that's why we always call on an ancestor, because they are with us every day fighting. That's why we fight the way we do, because their blood runs through our bloods. There is a small technical challenge. So we're gonna pause for 30 seconds and we're gonna come back on.
I can hear you.
I can hear you. I was on mute.
Yes. Okay.
You'll let us know when it comes back on? Got it.
Okay. We are back, everyone. Thank you so much for bearing with us. We're having some technical difficulties this
Got it.
morning.
Melody, I don't think it's on yet because I'm on the live stream.
Okay.
We are back on. Thank you so much, everybody, with your patience.
Thank you for bearing with us. So we do want to talk a little bit more about Juneteenth, the celebration of African resistance, and why we celebrate the holiday. So African resistance in the United States was ultimately effective and was ultimately the reason why slavery was ended in the United States. It is because of the continuous constant rebellion and resistance that slavery ended. And it, the thing that they tell you in school is that we were slaves. They don't talk about us as people. They don't talk about us as Africans, as people who were taken as full humans, brilliant humans, people who were running a society that were fully functioning societies. Everyone had a role. Everyone used their skills and talents and contributed to the greater good, just like we do today with our work and our lives. They don't talk about people like that. They call our African ancestors slaves. But the truth is they were humans. They were people. They had relationships and they had connections. They had languages. They had stories. They had ancestral knowledge. And it is because they were fully human beings that had this kind of connection and this knowledge that they were able to work with one another and survive the colonization process and the enslavement process.
About how the language that we say, like our people were slaves. No, they were enslaved. Our people were enslaved. They were not slaves. They were enslaved, as Melody talked about. They came with skills. They came with the rebellion to fight for our people. And so that's really critical for us to really start changing our language and how we view our people. And it aided in them escaping slavery consistently and even building up colonies for themselves to serve their people, to fight for their people, and even going back and taking their people back, right? Because our people were kidnapped, they were stolen, and they were enslaved.
Yeah, it's important that we recognize this, especially this year on this Juneteenth. The historical celebration has always included an acknowledgement of all of our work and all of our contributions to our greater community and to the worldwide community of Africans, and to anywhere that we live. We are contributing and we are making inroads and changing every single thing that we touch in a positive way. And when we celebrate Juneteenth, what we celebrate really is the ingenuity of Africans and the resilience of Africans. On the very first Juneteenth in 1865, Africans who celebrated did a lot of different things. They prayed. They were cooking food. They were feasting. They were running away from their plantations. Not even running away. They just left. Because they were told they were free and that was it. And they left to find relatives that had been taken, stolen and sold to different places. They took clothing from slave owners to wear when they left to prove and show show their new social status in the United States that was legally recognized at that point. Contemporary celebrations of Juneteenth often include Africans gathering together, family gatherings in parks, barbecuing, engaging in all different types of recreation like sports and fishing and different types of games, dancing, and always a recognition of the continuous struggle that Africans in America have had to wage. Because again, we are oppressed here. We are oppressed everywhere. Everywhere that Africans exist in the world, we are oppressed. Anti-Blackness is a worldwide sort of a culture in and of itself. I wouldn't call it a positive culture. I would call it a really negative culture, but people stick to it. People are obsessed with it. And we know that we are everything and we know that we have everything within ourselves. So we have to continuously celebrate our autonomy, celebrate and work toward individual and community autonomy so that we can be self-directed and self-affirming. And that's really what we're working for today, as you see in these current political moments as well.
Celebrations, we are in community together. We're in community together, we're building together, and we're celebrating together, and also envisioning what we want our future to look like. And so even though that there's celebration, there's political education. We have to talk about how Juneteenth is directly connected to like the prison abolition work that we do. We have to connect to how also it's connected to how we fight for liberation, how it's connected directly to Black Lives Matter. Like these movements are not new. This is the same fight our ancestors have been fighting since they were stolen. And all of it is interwoven, all of it is interconnected. And so even though it's a space of celebration, a space of healing, a space of building community together, it's also a space for us to ignite our continued fight for our freedom.
Absolutely. And we have to recognize that fight for freedom, as Monica said, as a Pan-African fight. It is everywhere that we exist that we are not free. Everywhere that we exist, we are being oppressed. And so it's important, the important things that the All African People's Revolutionary Party does in terms of recognizing Pan-Africanism is that we also work with and we support every single person's struggle that is an Indigenous person, a person of color, because we know that we're not the only ones that are oppressed. Everyone is fighting European domination, and that is why we work with other people. We work with every single group. We build collaborations, we build connections, and we try to understand each other's struggles because it really is part of the same struggle. It looks different in different communities, but it is all part of the same struggle. Anti-Blackness has affected every single ethnic group that is not European, and it's affected, it's created internalized self-hate, and it's designed to divide us. So we work to connect with one another. The movement happening right now, what you're seeing is that even though a lot of the rebellion that we're facing right now, that we're dealing with right now, that we're igniting really right now, started after the murders of George Floyd and Breonna Taylor, after the murders of Ahmaud Arbery, Tony McDade, and Nina Pop. Those happened in the United States, but the rebellion is actually happening worldwide. We're seeing that people everywhere around the world are fighting for our liberation, are listening to us. We're seeing that Africans all over the world are really connecting with the struggle in the United States and connecting their struggles because police brutality happens all over the world as well. And it's always anti-Black. It always takes an anti-Black form. We're seeing people all over the world connect to this. And it's important that those of us in the United States see ourselves as part of Africa and as part of the Pan-African struggle for liberation.
Yes.
Because we know, sorry, go ahead. We know that.
No, I'm agreeing with you. Yes.
We know that we have been one step away from enslavement this whole time, right? While we celebrate Juneteenth, we still know that we're very close to what happened to our ancestors. We're not really that far from it, not just in time, but also in material reality, the way that it affects us. So it's important that we realize this and we pay attention to this, even as we celebrate, that we must be all part of a continuous, strategic, ongoing, coordinated struggle in support with other Africans and drawing support from other communities and supporting other communities as well. If we don't do that, we are really the majority. And if we don't do that, it will be impossible for us to really make the kind of change that we're seeing, the kind of change that we know that we want, a better world for everyone, a healthier, safer place. That's what we're working for.
I agree. And what you make me think about is why important it is for us to be in solidarity with colonized folks. So that's, people of color, colonized folks, because the intersectionality that exists. So Africans, Indigenous people, we are disproportionately populated in prisons, as well as people who are Chicano, right? We're overpopulated in prisons. And when you mentioned how we're one step away from going back to slavery, that is so apparent. The 13th Amendment actually legalizes people in prison being enslaved, right? And so because of that, even in New Mexico, where our people are 3-4% of the population, we are 7 times more likely to be incarcerated compared to Europeans. Like it exists in every system. It is embedded in every system. And that's happening here to our people. It makes me think about what's happening to Clifton White. Clifton White, since 11 years old, has been on probation or parole, right?
Wow.
He's been property of the state. Like right now, he's on his 7th parole term since 2001.
Wow.
When he was 17, right? So the school to prison pipeline is so real. The prison industrial complex is a $60 billion industry, and probably more since what's happening to children at the border, children and families who are seeking refuge, right? And what this country is brutally doing to them, right? They're profiting off of people suffering, and that's what prisons are doing. And so that, in so many ways, we need to be in solidarity because of the intersectionality that's connected to colonized folks, right? And so like, there's so many stories like Clifton's, and we don't want to hear any more stories. There's too many stories like Breonna and George Floyd. There's too many of those stories, and why we have to be in solidarity together, fighting. And the liberation of Africans is the liberation for everyone. Because when you liberate the most oppressed group, you liberate everyone.
Absolutely. And in order for us to really reclaim our autonomy and self-determination, which is ours, it's ours, we have it, but in order for us to make it manifest in this world, we have to first reclaim our power, and we have to be coordinated in our efforts, because a system cannot incarcerate us at the rate that it's incarcerating us this disproportionately without it being coordinated. So our efforts to remain free and to end the oppression have to also be coordinated, because we have the power and we have the numbers. We just need to be in community with each other, joining organizations, and working in a very strategic way to get to the freedom that we want. So if you are an African person in New Mexico, the All African People's Revolutionary Party needs you. We need you. We need all of your skills and talents. We need you to be in community with us. We work together. You will find a community of Africans in New Mexico who are working toward a anti-capitalist, a socialist, one unified Africa. That is really, it follows the edicts of our founders, Kwame Nkrumah and Sekou Touré. If you look up either of them, you will find a lot of their books, and you will find their speeches, you will find their readings. In fact, the All African People's Revolutionary Party was successful in democratically voting Kwame Nkrumah as the president of Ghana, and it can be done. It can be done that you can actually have a revolutionary, socialist, Pan-African party achieve that kind of power for self-determination for Africans. So if you're in New Mexico, please join the All African People's Revolutionary Party. Please send us an email, send us a message. Let us know that you want to know more. We will meet with you. We will talk with you. We will let you know everything, answer all your questions, but we really need you because right now, especially in New Mexico, there are great harms coming to our community, and more are planned, and we just have to be coordinated, be strategic, and be in one community with one another.
I just want to also add why you should join the All African People's Revolutionary Party or an organization that is fighting toward African liberation. At any time in history, you can be a target just because of what this country was built on. And so the more that we are in this fight and struggle together, the more that we are protecting one another. And last year, incarceration around the nation went down, except in New Mexico, it went up. And again, we are 7 times more likely to be incarcerated, right? And so when Melody is saying we need you, we really need you. And it's not just around prison abolition, but work to liberate our people. New Mexico is very different. It has, even though we're a multicultural state, there's a tricultural lens, and we are often seen as invisible. And but we're not. We are out there loud. We're out there fighting for our people, and we need you because our community needs you. My son, who's 9, needs you. So many of our children need you to be in the fight with us.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And as Monica mentioned, you know, it's we are not just fighting for prison abolition. We are also out here trying to protect one another from many different things, right? We know that our community suffers from increased disproportionate poverty. We know that our community suffers from increased unemployment. We know that those are risks for pretty much everyone across the board. It does not even matter what kind of job you have, the level of job you have. Very often we are the last hire, the first hire. So it's important that we have protection for ourselves and community with each other. We can network with each other. We can help each other in many different ways. And one of the ways that the All African People's Revolutionary Party has been helping Africans right here in New Mexico is during COVID-19. We have been organizing community mutual aid. We have been working with other groups that are organizing mutual aid in terms of preventive measures for COVID, right? We've been providing hygiene supplies, we've been providing masks and all of the different types of different things that everybody needs right now to resist the pandemic, to not become infected. We have been working with African elders. We've been providing food. We've been building gardens. We've been getting donations and building gardens for people so that people can start to, look into like growing our own food. It's just that kind of, that's a defensive measure, right? If you're growing your own food, if you become adept at that, you can actually feed yourself and not have to rely as much or worry as much about being able to feed yourself. And that is a defense thing because we know that in our communities, more people suffer from hunger. We have a harder time accessing healthy food a lot of times because of food deserts. So they're strategically planned in our communities that we don't have access to fresh vegetables and fruit that we know that we need to eat to get all our nutrients. And so we've been building gardens with people. We have been providing a lot of different types of support. And if you join the All African Revolutionary Party, there are a lot of different things you can help with. But first, we'd like to give you a little bit of a COVID-19 update because information is also community defense. And we want to let you know and keep you aware of what's going on with regard to COVID-19 in New Mexico right now. So as of yesterday, New Mexico has over 10,000 cases, right? 10,065 cases of COVID-19. Just yesterday, the update was 138 new infections. There were 20 in Bernalillo County. Doña Ana had 18 cases and Kenny had 20 new cases. There were 30 new cases for people who are held in federal agencies at the Otero County Processing Center. All right, and so we know that is majority our people. Majority our people, majority Indigenous people, majority Hispanic people here in New Mexico. And other counties had less high numbers, but we wanted to make you aware that those are some of the most recent updates about COVID-19 in New Mexico. Go ahead, Monica.
So just to remind you, we are in a pandemic still. Like last week, we were at 9,200 some cases. Now we're at 10,065 cases. So we are in a pandemic. And so even though there are some Juneteenth celebrations that are happening in person, it is very, very critical that you are protecting yourselves, that you are wearing a mask. If you are out protesting, it's very critical that you are getting tested. We often post different test sites and their locations. There's often test sites on the weekends. If you have insurance, you can go to UNM Hospital, but First Nations often does testing as well. And so we'll make sure to post information. It's critical that you're tested and that you keep yourself safe and you keep your family safe because we're still in the pandemic. And we know that the majority of people who are unfortunately passing away due to COVID is our people, right? Due to the social conditions and institutional racism around social determinants of health. So like high blood pressure, being overweight, respiratory issues, our people are the most essential workers as well, right? We overrepresent essential workers in several different areas like public transportation, grocery stores, nurses' aides. So this is why our people are most impacted, because of also like environmental racism. Also, we know medical racism exists. And so make sure that you get tested. Make sure that you visit our sites. We give updates on the All African People Revolutionary Party's Facebook page. It's so important that you keep yourself safe and the community members around you safe.
Absolutely. And here, here in New Mexico, there are actually a number of free testing sites. I personally went to UNMH yesterday and got tested. And they did ask a question about what insurance I had, but they actually gave you a test anyway, regardless, and you did not have to pay. You did not have to give them any information. It's a 24-hour location for testing, and right next to that location as well. So here in Albuquerque, UNMH is in my opinion, a good resource. But there are many different testing sites, and it is important that if you have been out a lot, if you feel any type of illness whatsoever, to get tested. Just check, and sometimes it's just like knowing that you don't have the virus is helpful. But even if you get tested, I think but the most important thing is that we still continue to wear masks. If anyone is thinking about going to any of the Juneteenth live in-person celebrations this weekend, wear a mask. If you have hand sanitizer, bring hand sanitizer. Like, really do everything to keep yourself safe. Many places are going back to normal, and we're seeing news now that a lot of the places that have gone back to normal are actually experiencing spikes, very, very big spikes in COVID-19 infections. And it's not an accident, or it's not a coincidence. The openings have actually put many, many, many more people at increased risk. And so it's still important to keep yourself safe. Even though, it's tempting to go back to normal and want to go eat in a restaurant, or want to go to a party, or just want to spend some time with friends, we have to still remain vigilant and take precautions. And, it's important that we still try to avoid interpersonal contact, still remain 6 feet or more away from one another. All of the precautions we talked about at the beginning of the pandemic, they still do apply. Even though we've reopened, it is important that especially for our community, we know that we don't always get the most accurate information, right? We know that the media is not always portraying us in the right light, right, and accurately. And so, with this pandemic, there is a rush to keep the economy going. And, it really is a situation in which capitalism, again, comes before human lives.
Yeah, so profits over people is what we're seeing.
Profits over people is what we're seeing this entire country do. They have decided to calculatedly take a risk at more people getting sick in order to make the economy roll on. And so it's important that we keep ourselves safe.
Definitely. And if you're feeling sick, of course, get tested. But also, if you don't have any symptoms at all and you are out and about often and you are protesting, it's important that you get tested, because remember, you can be a carrier. You can have no symptoms at all and have coronavirus and be spreading it to others. So it's so critical that you are tested if you're doing that, because you can have no symptoms. And originally, they would only test people with symptoms. Originally, they were telling us not to wear masks. So all of that stuff has changed, right? So we know wearing a mask keeps you more protected than not wearing a mask. We know if you can stay home, stay home. You can go for a walk and find different things to do. You can do different things that still keep you protected as well.
And what Monica said about wearing a mask is it's amazing, because I saw a news story just this morning that said that, despite, I think that actually it was a comrade in the AAPRP, I think Onya Sonwu here in New Mexico's AAPRP posted this article that was saying that they haven't seen spikes among people who have been out protesting who were wearing masks. And essentially that, what we saw is that our communities who have been out here protesting, we do know the risk and we are staying safe. We are wearing masks, despite the fact that we're out in together. I'm not saying that this is something we should not do, but if you feel the need to protest and you feel healthy enough and safe enough and you wear a mask, when you're doing it and you do all the safety precautions, it is showing that actually the mask is protective. The fabric masks are protective. They are preventing people from spreading the virus. And so, here in New Mexico, I do see people out sometimes not wearing masks. It is so important that we do whatever we need to do to remember. I mean, put it in the pocket of every pair of your pants or your skirt, whatever you're wearing. Put it right by your door, hang it on your doorknob or something like that, so you really don't forget, because they are keeping us safe. And at the beginning of the pandemic, we were told not to wear masks. It is now proven that the masks are helping. The masks are keeping people from infecting one another. So please do that for yourselves. Do that for your loved ones. Do that for our community. Sorry, my dog is coughing in the background. It's a very gross sound. I apologize for that. But yes, so in New Mexico right now, we are seeing the current, oh my gosh, I'm sorry. I am so sorry. Let me just say, Monica, I don't know if you want to just continue, and I will mute. I
will take it on. So definitely echoing everything Melody said about keeping ourselves safe, our loved ones, and our community by wearing masks, limiting having to go out often, doing things that would, cause harm to your health or health to others. Just want to remind you, with our community events, we are sharing food with Africans and African families. That's the focus of the mutual aid. You can support. You can donate to the Venmo account, which allows us to purchase items. You can also purchase food, and there's a number that you can call to be. You can call a number, and they can give you information on where to drop it off. You can also join, if you are African, you can join being part of the community defense, where we're doing mutual aid and we deliver to African families. And so we need you in multiple ways to be part of protecting our people, right? And making sure the most vulnerable populations have access to food, because we are in a food desert and we do have people who have compromised immune systems who cannot leave their homes. And so you can join the effort to support and making sure that their needs are met.
Absolutely. And we're doing a number of things right now with the AAPRP. We are actually at a very important time because we're expanding. There's a lot more need. People are showing a lot of support, and we're able to offer more to the community. So if you join the AAPRP here in New Mexico, there are a number of things you can help with. We are looking for people who have social media expertise, who can do outreach, especially on social media, propaganda. We are looking for people who can create materials, flyers, posters, information about the organization, marketing. Really, that's all of that falls under marketing, and being able to demonstrate and find more African people in the community and demonstrate to them that there are things here that we could provide for them. Number two, we need people who are willing to help with community defense. Broadly speaking, that is anything that supports Africans to be more self-sufficient, to be more independent and self-sufficient here in New Mexico. So again, community defense has entailed, like Monica said, bringing food to elders, bringing food to anyone really that's in need, supplying the hygiene supplies that we need for COVID-19, many other things. We also need people to join and help with external program development, right? Figure out other things that we do need in the community. Some things that we've been talking about lately, helping people build gardens, like perhaps a community garden. Perhaps there are many different ideas that we need to know what you think we need in our community, and we need to know what others think that they need in the community. And that's really what our programming is. That external programming development is something that if you have ideas, if you have things that you've always wanted to see in New Mexico for African communities, let us know. Like, please join and help us make that a reality. And if you don't want to join, again, like you want to join, you want to help out in some way, you can help out in all of these different ways, even if you don't want to officially join the party. If you just let us know via email, again, that email address is aaprpnewmexico@gmail.com. That email address is where you can let us know anything that you might want to help out with, even if you don't want to officially join the party. And you can help out in ways that are large and small. We will take any support. Is really about connecting with other Africans and making things exist for us. So as Monica said again, we are accepting donations. We need donations to be able to keep helping African elders in the community, all Africans in the community. So the Venmo, again, is at AAPRP-NM. And so we appreciate everybody who has been donating to us, cash money as well as supplies. Thank you all for bringing this community together. We've been able to help feed 15 families and many elders in our community. So this has been just amazing to be able to see us do this work out here.
Yes,
we
and
also.
Those,
oh,
I was
sorry.
just going to say, and we deliver to those families every week. Every week, once a week, those families, we're making sure that they have the supplies that they need, and we're also checking in with them, right? Doing phone calls and checking in to see how they're doing and see if they have, excuse me, any other needs. So on the screen is information on how you can donate. On the screen is also information on how you can contact us as well.
And if you know of any African family or elder that needs support, please hit us up. Please let us know who they are. Have them reach out to us, or as long as they are in agreement with this, you can let us know their contact information and we'll reach out to them. We also would like to put out an ask. We're looking for regular sources, meaning regular, like me, ongoing, dependable sources of bulk beans and produce. If you know anyone who could help provide us with bulk beans and produce, please let us know. Please reach out to us at that email address, DM us on here. Just let us know how we can reach out. And so, let's see. And we've got updates about the next upcoming shows and things that are,
yes.
that are happening.
So again, we talked about Free Clifton White in this space, right? And so there is the Black Voices ABQ created a online petition. You can sign the online petition and share it. Right now, the only person who has authority to release Clifton White is the governor. He is considered state property, so he is considered a slave to the state, and the only person who has authority to release him is the governor. Please continue to call the governor, continue to call the probation office, continue to call and sign the petition, as well as share it. So that is on many of our Facebook pages. You can call the governor at 295-008. Is that the number?
I don't know. Actually,
I might have said the wrong number, and I should know this number by heart since I've been calling it every day. But you can call the number. I will make sure to say it again. That's our number. Sorry. So that's our number to call if you want to donate to mutual aid or have like a supplies, 295-008. You can call the governor's office and sign the petition to free Clifton White. Again, he was targeted for organizing for Black Lives. And so they'll be posting that number in the chat on how to call the governor. Free Them All Fridays, they typically normally have an event. They might not have one this Friday, but every Friday they go to a prison or a jail demanding that people who are behind the walls are released. As Melody talked about earlier, on Otero County has a spike because of our people, human beings behind the walls. Because of human beings behind the walls. And it's really important that we are advocating strongly for them to be released so that they are not behind the walls and being at risk of getting COVID-19. And we see the spikes that are happening. And so we know that you cannot social distance behind the walls. All across the nation, people who are incarcerated being tested, there is huge spikes. So we want everybody behind the walls to be free.
It's kind of crazy. I didn't know this actually, that the Department of Health is reporting that in federal facilities in New Mexico, right, there are 2 people infected in Cibola County Detention Center, 1 in Luna County Detention Center, but we know it's never just one. Otero County Prison Facility has 275 people, and that's in the federal prison facility. However, in the New Mexico Corrections Department, Otero County Facility, there are 306 people who've been infected with COVID. At the Otero County Processing Center, there's 138 people that have been infected in that facility. In Torrance County, 24 people. That's a real outbreak within the facilities. That's just really intense to look at those numbers and see all those people who are locked up and unable to do anything that have COVID-19.
Exactly. Exactly. We should, and making sure that there are petitions going around asking for the release of people who are behind the walls. So make sure to sign those petitions. And again, I was able to look up the Free Clifton White information. The governor's number is 505-476-2200. That information is also now in the feed of Facebook. So call, release, asking, demanding the release of Clifton White. Because again, he was targeted because he's on parole, and they targeted him and they arrested him. They manufactured lies against him, and he is behind the walls, and we are demanding and calling for his freedom. And thank you, Modi, for sharing that information about what the tests are about for people behind the walls.
Yeah. We want to also let you know about a couple of other things before we end here real soon. Albuquerque Mutual Aid, if you are in any need for anything really during COVID-19, Albuquerque Mutual Aid can help. You can search for Albuquerque Mutual Aid, or you can go to the website FFOL, like F like Frank, OL.org/mutual aid. There you can either request help or you can donate, and you can offer to do things like get groceries for people and all types of things like that. The Free Access to Movements FAM group is having a sing-along and story time every Saturday at 3:00 p.m. Free Access to Movements is available here on Facebook. You can find their site, and they will have story time and sing-along. The JJBC Burrito Giveaway is happening every Saturday morning at 9 a.m. The address for that is First Street and Silver. These are free burritos being given away every single Saturday by JJBC. So please, if you are in need of food or anything, show up to that Saturday mornings at 9 at First Street and Silver in Albuquerque.
And I wanted to add one more. So we know that for the summer lunch program, it has started. And so you can visit the Albuquerque Public School website to see where those sites are. So children can have access to summer lunches. So make sure to visit the APS website to see where those sites are. We want to make sure that all of our children have access to food.
Absolutely. For upcoming events, this is real quick. The next episode of this show of the All African People's Revolutionary Party update is next Thursday, June 25th. All African Revolutionaries Party Comrade Ajamu is having a show every Sunday at 5 p.m. That's Mountain Time or 4 p.m. Pacific Time. So please join in to Ajamu's show. He's a powerful comrade, and he will really enlighten your mind. You will have a lot to think about. And lastly, tomorrow, the All African People's Revolutionary Party in New Mexico, we are showing Juneteenth. We Saved Ourselves virtual edition. Again, that's tomorrow night, Friday, from 6 to 8 p.m. Is there anything else?
6 to 8 p.m. Mountain Standard Time. And also want to, again, visit our page because there's information on the We Saved Ourselves virtual event. And there's also the Juneteenth event in person at Roosevelt. That's happening from 5 to 10. And also on the 19th, after you watch We Saved Ourselves with us from 6 to 8, you can join them at Roosevelt Park from 8 to 10 p.m. as well. So there's so many opportunities for us to be in community together, virtually and in person. celebrating Juneteenth and fighting for our liberation.
Absolutely. Thank you all for joining in. It was lovely to have you.